Hey, what's up, guys? Toogie here, back again. You know the deal. It's another episode of my Buffalo Bills franchise mode series. We find ourselves currently in the middle of the 2023-2024 season, and we left the last episode with the question of whether or not we look to make a deal just shy of the trade deadline. We do have a couple of weaknesses that we could look to address with a little bit of depth. And we left the last episode wondering, do we make a trade with Green Bay? Do we make a trade with Washington? And I did a little bit of scouting out here because we are in a little bit of a cap crunch right now with only $2 million available because of all the free agents we had to sign to fill out this roster. And it's left me with an interesting spot, because with the Redskins, right, we had the option of Byram, I should say, and on the defensive line, we had Daron Payne. This was an ideal setup because they have two pieces that we're interested in on both teams, or on the same team. Two pieces on the same team that we're both interested in. Easy for me to say, as opposed to, say, Green Bay, where the only guy we're really interested in or could really afford, I'd love to get Kenny Clark, but that's not going to happen. The guy we're interested in is Caleb Wilson. And after poking around a little bit, I do think we're going to have to make two different trades. We're going to have to make one trade for a tight end and one trade for that defensive line help. Now, we do have options, thankfully, quite a few options, in fact, when it comes to some top-notch tight ends that are available, including Leonard Guion, I believe it would be, from the Seahawks, who is an absolute monster. I don't know if we have the assets to be able to trade for him. Byram is still an option on Washington, but perhaps not the best one, as on the Carolina Panthers, you have Casey. I believe it would be Anunoby, who I wanted to get in the draft. I didn't, and I regret it, because he is the best tight end I have seen out of the draft at any point in Madden this year. So I think he would really be the ideal target, even over Wilson, just someone who should develop into an absolute monster. The Giants have a ridiculous combination there that I wouldn't mind trying to break up either. But I really do think it's that main option on Carolina that we should try to acquire first. If that doesn't work, we can talk to Seattle, we can talk to Green Bay. But perhaps unsurprisingly, I'm looking for the cheaper, younger option at the moment, who looks like he has the highest ceiling. Whether or not we're able to pull off this trade, I genuinely don't know. We have plenty of draft picks to work with. We still have Deshaun Swinton to work with, although they don't have the max level of interest in him. They are looking for more defensive help. And in terms of wide receiver, there's really not much we could give up there without hurting ourselves to a kind of unfortunate extent. Although, offensive line help. Your interest in any of those players is nil, unfortunately. What about any of these players? Still no. Okay, so we're going to have to look to try and make this happen defensively. Now, Malcolm Worrell is someone I'm willing to give up. He's gone from quick development to normal, so we could easily look to move him if we had to. Kirkendall as well, even Joe Jackson. I'm just trying to gauge any interest. Now, I know these are players that don't fit in the team needs, but that's not to say that the team won't be interested. And they are interested in Tremaine Edmonds. Now, let me explain why I'm willing to get rid of Tremaine Edmonds. He's 25 and an 82, but he's down to normal development. He's pretty much capped out. He's not going to get that much better in his career. Whereas Angelo Riley, who we've been playing as the second option at middle linebacker, still has quick development at 23 years old. And remember, he started as an outside linebacker. I looked. If we move him back to the outside, he goes up to an 81. So that would give me the ability to play him full-time and also, hopefully, play Walter Harvey a little bit more, who we have just sitting there. And it'd be better suited to trade him now as opposed to just having him sit there and do absolutely nothing in the meantime. So if we can use Tremaine Edmonds to get a deal done, I absolutely will, because it really won't hurt us that much. It'll actually make us better in the long term. Let's go with the long term now. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to give up Anunoby at all, let alone easily. I just don't see that happening. I'm honestly not against using Harvey here The thing about Harvey, he's still quite young, but he's not going to have a starting spot on our team. That's just not going to happen when you look at who we have. It may have happened had we not gone out and acquired Stevenson, but it made too much sense to acquire Stevenson. So in terms of using Harvey here, that could be a possibility. Otherwise, it's probably Bryant Pyle that would have to be used. And I think we'll try to use him first. I mean, trying to hold on to Harvey would make sense. Pyle is not someone they're interested in. What about Bradford? Nor is Bradford. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work. The one thing I will check out is to see how much interest they have in Harvey, although Ripkowski... And they have interest in Ripkowski, too. This might work. This might work. I highly, highly doubt it. But I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if we didn't at least check. And unfortunately, it's not looking as though this is going to happen. We would have to give up someone even better. I'm not against completely butchering, in a way, my linebacker depth for this season to try and pull off this trade. Because, again, this would just be trade 1 of 2 if we're still going to be looking for a defensive tackle. And this, yeah, it's not going to happen. He is far, far too valuable to pick up here. Like, there's just no way. Even if I add on a second-round pick, I don't think we'll be close. No. So... That's out of the question. That's not going to happen. Now, we could talk to Green Bay. We could. Caleb Wilson is 26. I believe Guion was 26 as well. And if that doesn't work, we're still going to have to talk to Washington. Regardless, Guion's actually a little bit better. Guion's 24. Try to target him next. And Seattle also has a need for linebackers. So that could be... our in. What if we do Edmonds in a third? How close are we? Not at all. This is going to be easier said than done. Wow. All right. So I know we're aiming high here, but you've seen the trade system in this game. It is somewhat easy to exploit on occasion. Not this time. Not this time. These teams are being quite smart. And in fairness, elite-level tight ends have come at a premium in this sim thus far. Do you have any interest in Genther? You don't. I don't think Guion's going to happen either. I got to be honest, I'm thinking Washington's still our best bet. Byram isn't the greatest option, as we've seen, but he's the best option we have at the moment to try and pull this off. Do they have interest in Edmonds? They do. Let's see if we can get this done. We honestly might not be able to. These teams might just be looking for way too much. They might be smart enough to know that tight ends are coming at a premium. And unfortunately, that's what it's looking like. Do you have any interest in Ripkowski? You don't. How about, I know I mentioned him earlier, what about Malcolm Worrell? Do you have any interest in him? How close are we? Okay. So, in theory... this might not be the best trade, but you can see what the asking price is for a half-decent tight end or tight end prospect. It's a lot. It is a lot. Now, the bright side of this trade is that, at the very least, we move out Edmonds. Riley replaces him on the outside. We move Worrell, and Byram, improves at tight end. We'll look to find the extra defensive line option. I'm not saying this is the greatest trade in the world, because it's not. But we need to bolster up this offense, and the best way to do so is to help get, is to bring in that little bit of extra help at tight end. Of course, we're still trying to develop someone like Keaston Savage, which is why I'm not looking to bring in a wide receiver. But we still have Kareem Hunt. We still have a developing quarterback. We need to give him that extra weapon, and that's really the biggest weakness that we have on offense right now. So I'm willing to do this for the sole fact that we have the defensive depth to make up for the loss of Worrell, and that moving Edmonds, is honestly going to be for the better of the team to get Riley into a better spot. We are having to give up way, way more than I hoped, but I think it's going to make sense in the end. Oh my God, Washington is just... very wisely being extremely stingy. Edmonds Worrell in a third for Byram. Will this go through? Oh my God. Yeah, we are we're being fleeced here. Trust me, I know. I know, but this is it. This is the way to do it. I mean, for tight ends at least, you got to spend a lot to get a lot back, and we better hope that Byram turns in to a lot. For me, really, this is more... It's moving a linebacker that we should move. It's losing a depth option and a third-round pick to bring in the new tight end, the new starting tight end on the team. If you look at it that way, which I have no choice but to look at it that way, because otherwise I'm going to feel like I just made a massive mistake, it's not that bad. Now, we do need to bring in that defensive line help as well. And if we look at the team here, obviously it is that right end spot that we'd look to improve. Keaho is staying. That development pattern's still okay. I don't think he's going to get that much better, but we do need a better right end, as Joe Jackson is still good enough to play the second defensive tackle spot. We just need that better defensive end. And as far as who that's going to be, I don't know. Preferably a team that wants a quarterback, because that right now happens to be our biggest piece that we could offer. And I'd prefer this to be to an NFC team so that we don't have to deal with the consequences for a decent amount of time. And really, I might not get that wish. Tampa, I don't even really see why they'd be looking for a quarterback. That's the one issue there. What team is going to work here? I don't think any team's really going to work here. I know we looked in the last episode, and unfortunately, that situation hasn't changed. The Patriots need a quarterback, surprise, surprise, but we already traded them Oliveira. Then you have the Raiders with Maddox. Kind of a rough go. Do the Raiders have anybody on the defensive? Oh, well, they still have Khalil Mack, Bentley, Mario Edwards, and McClellan Farrell. Yikes, beggars cannot be choosers. We're certainly not going to pay Khalil Mack that much money. Yeah, there's really not a preferred option here. And right now, if anything, I'm going to be stuck just looking for the best option. The best inexpensive option. And it's not looking too good unless someone like Vincent Stewart turns out to be a beast, which he is not. Texans can kick rocks. We run into them way too often. What about the Vikings? Jesus Christ, $12 million for Hunter Butler Jr. And Shaquille Norris is 24. Star development, but I'm a little bit worried that he's 24. I'd like to find a younger option. I mean, here's the thing, right? If we're going to do this trade, we need to find the perfect piece to get back. And I'm damn well going to make sure we find that piece. But right now, I wish it was as simple as trading with Washington. But having tested out that trade, it wasn't going to work. Rashawn Gary would be a dream. I just don't think they'd be willing to trade him. Joey Bosa would be a dream. But that's not going to happen. Just the perfect solution to this problem. Unfortunately, he is not it. What about Dallas? Lawrence and David Irving, that's not going to help either. And at this rate, too, at least you can see kind of the situation for perhaps any teams you were interested in to see how they were doing. What about Rashad Newton? Quick development, so no different than the other 24-year-old that we were looking at. It just so happens that the ideal type of player that we're looking for right now is happening to come at a premium. Either that being a cheap option on the defensive line, or a younger option who has a little bit of promise. Go figure that those are the two spots where we need help, and it's not looking good. In terms of us finding a solution, it's not looking good at all, unless Lawrence Batamosi, he does not have any more potential. We are potentially screwed. Unless Karan Hawkins is solid. He's not bad. He's not that much better than who we've had, but he could still work. And to be honest, I think he's going to have to work. I think he's the guy for us. I think that is the correct answer. Samel Woods isn't going to work. What about on the right end, O.J. Skandrick? Again, 24-year-old with star development. Of course, we already made the deal with Washington. Deron Payne could still work, but at this rate, I do kind of want to save a little bit of money. You know, I think we have our best option. And go figure, it's Tampa again. Is there any way? Is there any way to get this to work without giving up Gardner Johnson or Stevenson? There is Harvey. Like, this would be the time to give up Harvey. If we're going to give someone up a star development, we might as well get someone with star development back. But I doubt we're anywhere close to pulling off a deal here. We can't be. At safety, I mean, Bennett Huval's going nowhere. They had no interest in Pyle or Bradford. Like, unless Harvey's value was out of control, Micah Hyde's not going anywhere. We could look to use Swinton, who they don't have a ton of interest in, but Harvey and Swinton are probably our two best pieces to use here, unless they have any interest in Trey Cates, the rookie, which they don't. So how close is this, if at all? It's not at all, which isn't surprising in the slightest. I think my dream of getting Anobi is not going to work out. Even with a first, it's not close. Okay, so Anobi's not going to happen. I think I'd prefer to try and use Swinton here to get Hawkins as opposed to anybody else. So if we use Swinton in a fourth, how close are we? Not really. We might have to use Harvey as well. Draft picks might not be enough. Oh, the asking prices are out of control. Do you have any interest in Ripkowski? You didn't, did you? No, you do. Okay, how close are we now? I don't feel like we were any closer there. His value pretty much evened out. What about Potter? You have interest in Potter. Okay. So if I remove that, it's like Swinton. Okay, so I don't really feel like Ripkowski had that much less value, if at all, compared to Potter. So we might as well keep Potter. So Swinton, Ripkowski, and let's say a third. We should be able to pull this off. Whether or not this is worth it to give up Swinton and a draft pick, I'm not entirely sure, because there is no guarantee that this is going to go through as it is. If I also give up Potter, which I think, yeah, I did that, and it still wasn't that close. Oh God, thank God we've been drafting well and have done well in terms of free agency. I don't think we can get him. I mean, you look at what a first round, or you look at what a half-decent tight end costs. Turns out to get, a half-decent defensive prospect as well, still not cheap. Still not cheap at all. We're looking at Swinton and a first to try and pull this off. As ridiculous as that is. Now, had this not been an online mode, where I could just back out and be like, okay, fuck it, who cares? No, we're stuck. That first trade's gone through no matter what. There's nothing I can change. So we've already kind of committed to improving the team rather than waiting until next year. So I'm in it to win it at this point. Like, we're here. Like, we're going to try to get this trade done. I just don't know if we're honestly going to be able to, because the best pieces we have to negotiate with are linebackers. Goddamn Stevenson. Chauncey as well. I'm not saying I'm tempted to do something batshit insane, but I'm tempted to do something batshit insane. Tempted. Not saying I'm committing to it, but I'm tempted. That's all I'm saying. Also here, let me back out of this quickly. Because it looked like the one trade didn't go through, funny enough. There we go, now Byram's listed. I thought so, I'm like, wait a minute, where the hell's Byram? It didn't, I guess that didn't go through until we backed out, so at least now we'll get a more accurate look at the team, I guess. But let's go back to Carolina. This is turning into a deadline episode of just me desperately trying to get a trade done. I keep going back to Anobi and just, out of freaking muscle memory at this point, because I really want to pick him up on the team, but that's not going to happen. So again, we have Swinton for Hawkins, and it's not close at all. But Hawkins was my preferred option in terms of a young player who has good development and is already pretty good himself. Shit. Okay. Let's explore something. I'm not saying I'm going to do this, but let's just explore something. Alright? Bear with me. Let's just pretend. Let's just pretend that this, for some reason, would be a trade that I wanted to potentially do. Which would kind of make sense. Even though they have no interest in Byram. I'd be getting the defensive help I need. It would make room for Harvey on the linebacker spot. We get an Obi and a first. Not even close. Wow. Okay. Well, I know they love both of them, but goddamn, how close is it without the first? Really? Jesus. There's no way I'm getting Hawkins then. There's no way. Like, if that's not going to even out, how the hell am I supposed to get this deal done? That is absolutely insane. There's no way I can get him then. Carolina, just not willing to do business, clearly. So let's look for, I guess, one of the younger options, like one of those 24-year-old options that looked half decent, because this is brutal. How good is Michael Lewis? Granted, he's 25, quick development. I'd rather find a 24-year-old with quick developments, like O.J. Skandrick, I believe, was one of the options. And indeed, he is. Do the Ravens have any interest in trading O.J. Skandrick? Again, at this point, I kind of wish I had just been like, you know what, prices are too high, let's back out, and we'll just have to deal with it, and we'll fix the team next year. But we already made that first trade. We're in this now. We have to move forward. So what's your interest level in these two players? Absolutely nothing. Even though I still don't really feel like we gave up that much in that previous deal, I like the player that we acquired. And, you know, 2 roster players and a pick for 1 roster player. It's a decent amount to give up, but I do like that trade. Whereas a trade for this defensive line help just isn't looking like it's going to happen. Because, like, how? How is it possibly going to happen? I just don't see it happening. They need help at wide receiver, which isn't going to happen for us. Offensive line help. I mean, if you're not interested in Genther, we're kind of screwed. Defensive line help. If you're not interested in one of those two, I'm kind of screwed. And they're interested in linebackers. Does Potter work? Okay, Potter might be our in. Even then, it's not that close, and we don't have really anybody else we could look to add to this outside of Trey Cates, who they don't have interest in. I think we're kind of screwed. I think the market's just too ridiculous. I gotta be honest. I think the market is just too out of control right now, and we have to deal with our team just not being what we want them to be yet. This just might not be our year. I think just based off of the players I'm seeing here, because right now, as I mentioned, and as we've seen throughout the series, and if you play Madden, you know, the trade block system, what teams are interested in, that is a little bit exploitable. That's not happening for me right now. And maybe I am setting my sights a little bit too high, but these are trades we normally pull off because, look, we have Stevenson on this team, right? Which, a trade of that caliber doesn't exactly happen often. If we can't get Norris, I think I'm waving the white flag, and we'll just try to figure it out from there. Let's add Ripkowski, and let's add Potter, because as it is, this team isn't exactly set. Like, I'm still going to have to bring in some free agents to fill out the roster. Not that I want to get rid of Bradford here, but if he could help us get this deal done. Do you have any interest in Genther? Who is that, left tackle? No. So how close are we with Potter? Not at all. I think we got to stay. I think we have to stay. Like I said, the one trade we just completed, I'm not totally against. You know, we essentially moved Worrell and a third for a starting tight end. So a better suited depth option on the defensive line in the third-round pick, because I don't view trading Tremaine Edmunds as that much of a negative just because of what we have with Riley. I think we're fine because of that. But yeah, I have to bring in somebody from the free agent list here, and I guess Switten's going to stay, and we'll look to make some more of these moves at the draft. So I'm going to cut Christian Tanner, because we don't need him now that we have Byram there. The offensive line is set in terms of depth. Defensively, we are, I mean, man, I don't know what the hell we're going to do there. It's not as if we got significantly weaker, because Lucas Knott's the same overall as Worrell. So we do need to sign someone to help out on the defensive side of things. We're going to move Angelo Riley out to the left. And while it might not be for the best, overall-wise, I think we're going to move, yes, so see, Riley is an 81. I think we're going to move Harvey to that middle linebacker spot and just try to get him as much play as we can. And hopefully he continues to develop over the next year or two until we're potentially, he's down to a 70. I even contemplated moving Chauncey, and it wasn't looking good. So we need a linebacker and a defensive lineman after those moves, and we should be fine from there. We're on 51, yeah. So we'll get the free agent list, see what we can bring in. We at least get the help offensively by bringing in a tight end, but in terms of doing everything we wanted to accomplish, it's just not going to happen, because I'm not going to sit here and trade half-decent pieces for pieces that truly aren't going to help us. And I guess it's going to be Josh Sweat that is brought in. Might as well. He's the best free agent available. We'll bring him in for the rest of the year. And then linebacker-wise, you have Sellers, Jawan Bentley, and Manti Te'o in the middle. In fairness, we could just continue to run Harvey. We could just continue to run Harvey on the outside and try to get him the, substitute snaps whenever someone's not on. That might be the best way to do it. But even if we have him selected as the, the backup option, I'm going to sign Manti Te'o for, just the reason of him being the highest overall guy. And we'll take it from there. This roster was in a weird spot before this, and it's still in a weird spot now, where, again, I don't really see our option to accomplish everything that we wanted to accomplish. So we're gonna move Lucas Knott over to that right-hand side, and he's gonna be the new starting right end for the rest of this season. It was him or Malcolm Worrell. Turns out it's gonna be him. So we still have some half-decent depth there. Defensive tackle stays the same. Angelo Riley is now in after the Tremaine Edmunds departure. And I think maybe we'll just keep Harvey in the middle, because it's not going to matter that much. We can just keep him listed in the middle, because we need to completely reorganize this depth chart as it is. It's just such a weird spot to be in right now. So if we go with the auto reorder, in terms of wide receivers, I just need to make sure that Savage is ahead of Cates, and he is. Tight end-wise, we get Kawan Byram, which should be a pretty big help. And from there, everything else is pretty much good. Denard Keaho, you get Lucas Knott, defensive tackle would be fine. And then as far as the linebackers are concerned, again, Stevenson's an even better outside linebacker than he is inside linebacker. I think we just move Harvey. I might screw around with the depth chart a little bit more. I think right here we take out Te'o. And where the hell is Harvey? There he is. We even play Harvey over Ripkowski. And then that way he gets some time. But I'm shocked, honestly. If anything, I'm scrambling, because I didn't expect the asking prices of the AI to be so high. But they really were. Like I said, unless I wanted to bring in a veteran who's not going to be worth as much in the long term, I'm not giving up a Harvey for a veteran who's only going to be around for a season or two, because I genuinely don't know. Like, okay, so say we improve that right end spot. You know, say we get not out of there and get someone who's 4 overall points better. Is that going to help that much? I honestly don't know. Where on the offensive side of things, at least a tight end, having an 80 and a 78 as opposed to a 78 and a 73, that's going to be quite helpful. And I mean, we have an 85 rated offense at this point. I feel like we needed to make that change, at the very least. But I'm going to take one more look. This might be the first episode of this series where I don't even know if I'm going to be simming any games. Just because we have... Like, we still have Swinton on this team, and he was my biggest piece to potentially move here. And that hasn't happened, obviously. But I don't really know what else we could look to do here. I like the fact that Riley's in the lineup, but I am very much concerned about Harvey. I want to try and develop this guy for obvious reasons, but there's just not an opening. We got 4 more years of an elite Gardner-Johnson, 6 years of Stevenson, and Riley should still turn into a beast. The problem is I just don't think Harvey's going to turn into that good of a middle linebacker, so he's not going to play all the time. And if we actually take a look at Chauncey, who initially was a safety that we moved to linebacker because he was that much better. If we look at Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in terms of, I meant to go to the depth chart, in terms of a middle linebacker option, I don't think that's going to work out for us either. So, let's, shit, I keep forgetting about all the extra options. Let's just take a look here. I mean, Chauncey's an 84. In a way, I wouldn't be opposed to playing the 3-4, playing Stevenson and Gardner-Johnson in the middle, and trying like hell to develop Harvey and Riley on the outside. Because that would be a ridiculous linebacker core. But, you know, having Chauncey Gardner-Johnson fall 5 overall points to be able to do that is a little bit excessive. But it's that, or we find a way to move Harvey. But every tight end and defensive option that I've been interested in, at least the better tight end options, and you know who I'm talking about on Carolina, we haven't been able to acquire them. So I think for that reason, we are just kind of trapped with this team. Not trapped with it. I mean, we're having a good season. We have a winning record. The team itself is solid. But these major changes, you know, making these final tweaks to really make us a true contender, outside of the addition of Byram in this episode, where you could argue we gave up too much, and you might not be wrong, I think we're stuck in that way for the rest of this season. Of course, the one downside right now, too, is with that deal. We did kind of weaken our defensive line depth, not by much. I mean, Kirkendall's still there to play, and it's not as if Pfeiffer's terrible. Like I said, I really like the idea of getting to play Riley. I want to play these linebackers as much as I can. But I don't really see what we could do. Because Micah Hyde's not going anywhere. Bennett Huval is going to continue to develop. I think our team is our team. Unless we find that one squad that's truly interested in Swinton and draft picks, we're not pulling this off. So we'll do one final look over. At this point, it doesn't even matter what conference. Here, Joey Bosa. We'd be just a little bit over. Just a little bit. Is there anybody else here? I will look for whatever team have the high interest level in Swinton, and we'll try to make it work. Lions and Packers are still there. Who do the Lions have outside of Allen Richardson? Which it's not as if I need more linebacker help, but I love me some Allen Richardson. Spencer Shepard. Jesus. Is it weird that I'm considering this? Like, just how close would we be? Potentially to the level that I could pull that off. Funny enough. That would be ridiculous. Let's look at Green Bay again. With Campbell, Kenny Clark, and again, we just can't afford Clark. The Panthers only had green interest. And the rest of it was just Washington. So, we know that we have Daron Payne as an option. I mean, we might still be able to pull off that trade. The Saints are the last team to have interest, so who do the Saints have for defensive line options? Preston, Rankin. Could we get a deal done for Daron Payne? It's not the ideal situation, but this would put us to where we need to be, where we get the help that we needed, even if we had to give up a bit much, and we should be able to do this. And I think I might. The good news is, he wouldn't even be their starting quarterback. He'd be behind Sean Elling, so his development might be stunted. I don't know if I did a second or a third round pick last time. I think I did the third. So we'd be looking at Swinton for Payne and potentially a fourth. I think I'm okay with that, because they should, they should avoid playing Swinton, and that should stunt his development. Screw it. There we go. Swinton sent to Washington for Daron Payne and a fourth-round pick. We have very little cap room. Will these trades go down as the right ones? I don't know. But once we started to make moves, again, with this being an online sim, I had no choice. Like, we had to keep the team this way. So I think what we're going to do is cut Josh Sweat. So sorry, buddy. Hope you didn't pack your bag from home, because you're already off the team. We're going to move Joe Jackson back to a defensive end. Doesn't really matter where. I might even... Actually, then again, I really can't even explore him as like a linebacker option or anything, because we already have too much depth there to begin with. But we'll move him back over. So we have Malone and Payne there as a 1-2 punch. Jackson's actually an 80. That's not too bad. So Keaho, Jackson, Malone, and Payne as the defensive line. That's not too bad. And if we find out Daron Payne isn't that bad as the defensive end, we can just swap him and Jackson back. And then at linebacker now we have Angelo Riley there. I might do something dumb with Gardner Johnson to try and help develop Harvey. We'll see. But aside from that, we are set up quite well. We are set up quite well. I don't hate this. I don't hate this. Now the deadline, whoa, what the hell just happened to my bumpers? What the hell was that? Is it like okay. I'm not saying that my controller's bugging out here, but it might be. It might be. I was going to say, we still have a little bit of time before the deadline, of course. And by a little bit of time, I mean literally next week. I think what I'm going to do is I might... let's look over the team one more time. Because we need to sign a backup quarterback before I forget, which there's a decent chance of me forgetting, to be honest. And we'll see if like Josh Allen's still available. We should have the money to bring him in. Unfortunately not. Morgan Wheeler? We actually don't have the money to bring in Morgan Wheeler. What about good old Reed Frick? No. Okay, what about Bruce Lachey? Or the Lockey? That's not going to happen either, so we're going to have to go for like a 70. Philip Morley. Congratulations, you're our backup quarterback for the rest of the year. Because face it, especially now after the trade, if Hanson Erickson goes down, who gives a damn? We're dead in the water anyway. So if we take one more look at the roster, I didn't think this would be just a trade episode, yet here we are. And really, we only did 2 trades. Quarterback, we're good. It's Hanson Erickson. If he fails, if he gets injured, then that's it. Kareem Hunt, we're fine. Fullback, we're fine. Wide receiver, we're okay. We're not great, but we're okay. Kawangio, Charles, continuing to develop, and we're trying to see if we have something here with Keaston Savage. So we're pretty good there. Tight end, we're fine now with Byram and Pittman as a 1-2 punch. I'm excited to see what they can do for the rest of the way. The offensive line with Stemke, Brenton Weeks, Michael Dieter, Lewis Bush, and Warren Leckie are fine. Defensive line of Keaho, Joe Jackson, Malone, and Daron Payne. I'm good with that. It's better than what we had, in my opinion. Angelo Riley on the left. Stevenson, Harvey, Gardner-Johnson, some combination of them at linebacker. That's looking good. The corner situation is still outrageous. Like, again, the Marshawn Lattimore trade's actually an even better example of just how this trade system can work sometimes. And then at safety, developing Bennett Huval, and we still have Micah Hyde. I mean, we're set up quite well. I really don't think there's anything else we'd want to look to do, but I think I'm going to end the episode here so you guys can have that last bit of input before we really make a push towards the end of the season and the end of the playoffs. And that way, too, I can maybe test some things out, see what some of the ratings are going to be for some players, and we'll figure out everything, get this depth chart set up, and try to make the best team that we possibly can. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know this episode's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but while I don't handle this series like this all the time, I do like to run my series in a way that can get you guys as much input as possible. So I would have said in the description that, hey, fair warning, this is a deadline episode essentially, and it's a lot of testing, and I can't think of the right word at this point. I'm losing my mind. It's a lot of trial and error to try and get something done. But if you did enjoy this episode, and if I was at the very least your background noise, I do appreciate that. Like I said, I'm looking forward to what you guys have to say down in the comments below. In the next episode, we continue on with this season, and we'll see how it goes from there. So it started with the thought of trading with Washington, and it ends with finally trading with Washington.